It's not something I expected when I took my daughter to go visit colleges. Did not expect to end up in the hospital. Did not expect to do a 48-hour fast. Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi. We're here, as my friend Reverend Jimmy says, to meet, pray, and love. And I'm here to talk today about an extraordinary experience I had last week. And there's some poop talk here, so get ready for it. I was in Philadelphia touring colleges with my daughter, who's a junior in high school, and we were having a wonderful time, but I started getting really bad diarrhea. And if you know a little bit about carnivore, you know that typically diarrhea results when we have too much fat. That's one of the reasons people often get diarrhea early on in beginning the carnivore journey, because they're eating much more fat than usual. And one of the ways to tell if we're getting a little too much fat is if we do get diarrhea. And that's typical. It's not harmful. It's what happens. That was my initial thought. But then it continued, even when I cut down on the fat, and it started getting worse. And I started getting a little bit of abdominal pain. Not much, but a little bit, and a little bit nauseous. We finished our tour. It was Tuesday, and it was time to go home, and I just wasn't feeling well. So we switched to an earlier flight. And I woke up that morning feeling very dehydrated because I was nauseous, couldn't eat as much as I usually do. We got on the plane to come back to Chicago. Planes delayed, like they are all the time now. And then about an hour into the delay, they said, we have to get off the plane and they're going to switch planes. At this point, I'm feeling pretty bad. And so I decide that I'm going to go to the emergency room, because I don't want to be dehydrated. I'm a little worried about what's going to happen on the flight. My in-laws live in Philadelphia, so my daughter could go and be with them. Go to the hospital. Of course, the emergency room is the worst place to be in a hospital. I was there for 6.5 hours in the emergency room. Finally got seen, and I said, just get me some fluid IVs. I'm dehydrated. This will really help, and I'll go see a doctor when I get back to Chicago. Put me on IV fluids. And then a very smart PA saw me and said, let's just do a CAT scan. And I thought, I just want to go home. I don't need to do a CAT scan. I'm already feeling better with the IVs. But she said, no, let's do it. Did a CAT scan. Turned out I had a perforated appendix. They began paying much more attention to me at that point. And there was several doctors said, we're going to probably have to do surgery tonight. But then they concluded that it was too inflamed to do surgery, and that they could try giving me antibiotics for a few days to see if the inflammation went down. And then if it went down, it had not, the appendix hadn't burst so badly that it had spread deeply. So if the inflammation went down, then they could wait about 6 weeks to do surgery, and then they could do a very easy laparoscopic surgery to remove the appendix. So I said, let's do that. They said, you're probably going to be in the hospital 5 nights because we got to make sure the antibiotics work. I said, fine, we got to do what we got to do. Went to the hospital, took the antibiotics, and they let me out after 3 days because the inflammation went way down, never had a fever, white blood cell count went down, everything was smooth, and their treatment worked perfectly. And this was the first time, really since I've been a carnivore, that I had any serious health issue, really almost any health issue at all. And it drove home a few lessons. The first lesson is that sometimes we tend to think that we carnivores are invincible. I know I'm guilty of promoting that sometimes. There's a lot of great carnivore YouTubers that promote this idea that this gives us extraordinarily amazing health and we're never going to get sick again, and we don't need all those doctors. What do we need them for? And maybe some carnivores like Dr. Chafee are invincible, but aside from him, I don't think any of us really are. We are all human. We all get sick sometimes. Carnivore doesn't solve all of the human condition. It helps enormously, but we still have to monitor our health. We still have to be aware, and that's an important lesson. In fact, one of the things that I did that I think all people who are doing an alternative diet, an alternative way of living, is you may question yourself. Say, did anything I do as a carnivore potentially cause this? And of course, I'm not a doctor and I don't give medical advice, but my general conclusion, and the conclusion that several other doctors I talked to said, is absolutely not. This is the most common surgery people have. And my sister, this almost the exact same thing happened to my sister, who's older than me, 2 years ago. So there may be a genetic component to this. What I do know is that the health that I'm in because of the carnivore diet got me out of the hospital much faster than is typical for a patient. So in fact, being a carnivore helped me enormously with the difficult part of being in the hospital. And in fact, being in the hospital was not all that bad. Yes, they offered bad food. Do you want Jell-O? What about dessert? I had to specifically request my meals, and fortunately my in-laws were there so they could bring some food for me as well. But it actually wasn't horrible. The people were accommodating. I stayed carnivore while in the hospital, and I was very upfront with the doctors about it, and they didn't really approve of carnivore, you could say, but they were very happy with low carb and no sugar. So I count that as a win. Second thing that I noticed going through this experience as a carnivore that was a huge benefit is the confidence I have in my own health. When you're in the hospital, you can easily be pulled around and basically be like a sheep. Just do what everyone tells you, kind of feel confused, feel like you have to agree with everything everyone is telling you, and just feel disempowered. That's a very common feeling. As I visit people in the hospital as a rabbi, I know many people feel that way. And I was also all alone there. My daughter was able to fly back, thankfully. My wife and kids were back in Chicago, and I told my wife not to come. I would get through this. But I had to stay clear-headed and be my own advocate. And fortunately, I have lots of doctors who are friends, and so I could consult with people. But you really have to stay clear and confident in what you need, who you are, and making decisions that matter. Now, of course, I wasn't incapacitated, so I had that ability to make decisions, but I think carnivore helped me with that. I think when you become a carnivore and you take responsibility for your health, you almost change as a person. You feel more control. And that's a great feeling. To feel like you have a greater degree of control over your health gives you the confidence to make important decisions and not just be dragged around by what someone else tells you. That kind of acceptance is very good. It's acceptance along with empowerment. We know what's in our control and we know what's not, and we're able to think clearly and decide what's appropriate given what we can control. The third thing that I really experienced, and that I'm still experiencing right now, is I feel more in touch with my body. As a carnivore, you learn to trust your hunger signals more. You learn to know what your body needs more, because when you're on an artificial American diet and you're stuffing yourself with carbs, you go from high to low. Carnivore, there's a more consistent energy. You know your body better. And I know what I'm capable of doing now in recovery. My last major health issue was 5 years ago. It was before the big disease, and I had a pretty bad running injury. And I healed. It was fine. I got through it. But then as I was recovering, I came back too hard. I started getting back into working out, started getting back into my sort of high energy, hard driving life before I should have. And that set me back. And now, as I'm continuing to recover, I'm being much more moderate, much slower. I'm still doing obviously much more stuff than I was a week ago, but I'm more in touch with what I'm capable of. There's just a greater trust in my body, in my health. And I credit carnivore with that. I credit not only the clear thinking, but the knowing what I'm capable of and listening to that, listening to what my body is telling me. That's how we eat as carnivores. We have to listen to what our body's telling us. We trust our satiety signals. That's one of the great benefits, is when you learn to really know when you're hungry and when you're not. When hunger is just a distraction, when it's something you may feel because you're bored, or when you actually need it. Listening to your body, trusting your body is a huge benefit of becoming a carnivore. So that's the journey I'm on right now. This was not something I expected when I took my daughter to go visit colleges. Did not expect to end up in the hospital. Did not expect to do a 48-hour fast. I couldn't eat when I was in the emergency room, and then the doctor wouldn't let me eat for another day so I wouldn't irritate my appendix and my bowels. I had that fasting experience. So that's where I am right now. Didn't expect all of that to happen. And the final kind of, I don't know if it's a lesson, but it's more a reflection, is that being in the hospital reminded me of how grateful I am for my health. Seeing other people who are suffering from really debilitating illnesses made me feel grateful that overall, because of the carnivore diet, because I'm mindful of what I eat and that I exercise and that I am able to access great food, that I have so much to be grateful for. When you're in the hospital, it's almost like you're in a different world. The world outside kind of dissolves, and your world narrows to become this very small room in a big complex. And your meal times and your medication times and your blood pressure and vital signs check times, your world constricts, and that can be numbing. And I had to struggle to stay hopeful, stay optimistic, look at the bigger picture. And the way for me to do that was gratitude. Gratitude for the health that I have and that I know I could get through this. And I was also grateful for the people in the hospital. We, as carnivores, we often give doctors and our whole healthcare system a hard time sometimes because many of them don't approve with our way of life. But truthfully, so many of the people that were in the hospital that were taking care of me, nurses and doctors, were extraordinary people. They were devoted to helping people feel good, feel comfortable, and heal in the hospital. And I was grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the opportunities we have in life. We become carnivores to deal with health issues, to lose weight, or to feel better. But we also come to add life to our years, to be better human beings, to contribute more to the world. And being in the hospital and seeing people who helped contribute to my healing made me feel more committed to doing the same for others. It reinvigorated the sense of mission that I have as the Carnivore Rabbi. So thank you for listening. Happy to talk. And if you want, share your experiences below if you've had any illnesses as a carnivore. And I look forward to seeing you next time.